Chapter 1. Routine in the skies. Secrets on the ground. I met her when life still felt like it was just beginning. I was in college, struggling through engineering courses and dreaming of stability. She, on the other hand, was already living a life of motion. Young, confident, and a newly hired flight attendant. She moved through cities and time zones with grace, and I admired her deeply for that. From the very beginning, I supported her career. I never made her feel guilty about being gone, never questioned her motives, never made her choose between the sky and me. In fact, we made it work. For over 30 years we developed a rhythm. Whenever she traveled, she would call me the moment she landed. We'd sync up through all the time zones. Whether she was in Chicago or Dubai, I'd get that call and everything felt right. The first 5 years of marriage were like clockwork. Familiar calls. Laughter. No suspicion. Just love, or what I believed love looked like. But one week everything changed. She was on a trip and I called her at our usual time. No answer. Straight to voicemail. I told myself it was probably just a missed call, maybe her phone died. 3 days passed. Still nothing. And then one night she finally called, said she had been too tired after a group dinner to even touch her phone. That they'd been out sightseeing before catching another flight. I didn't push. I let it go. Because I trusted her. But deep down something felt off. She called again the next night, chatting casually about drinking games and strange pool challenges with the crew. I laughed along, pretending to enjoy the story, but the words didn't land the way they used to. There was something missing in her voice. Something missing in my peace. The next evening I was lying in bed, the television flickering shadows on the wall, when a knock echoed from the front door. I hesitated for a second, slipped on my slippers and made my way across the hall. When I opened the door, a tall man stood before me wearing a dark blazer and a guarded look. He held up a badge. "Detective Randall," he said. "May I come in for a few minutes?" And just like that, the quiet rhythm of my marriage broke in half. Chapter 2. A homicide and a familiar number. Detective Randall stepped into my living room with a calm yet firm presence. I offered him a seat, still unsure what this was all about. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "I'm here about a homicide." A homicide. That word didn't belong in my living room. I blinked, thinking he must have had the wrong house. He continued, saying the victim's phone records had led him here. More specifically, my wife's number showed up multiple times on the victim's call log in the days leading up to his death. I felt my stomach twist. Still I tried to stay calm. He asked me if I knew the man who'd been killed. I said no. I didn't recognize the name. I'd never even heard of him. He nodded, then asked where my wife was. I told him she was on a flight, wouldn't be back until next week. He jotted that down. The conversation didn't last much longer after that. He apologized for coming so late, handed me his card, and said he'd be following up with her when she returned. When he left, I just stood there in the entryway staring at the door for a long time. I didn't call her that night. I wanted to talk to her face to face. A few days later, she landed and called me like nothing had happened. I told her I'd pick her up at the airport. I watched her walk through the terminal with a smile, kissed me like she always did. It almost made me forget. Almost. We got home and everything felt too quiet. I brought in her luggage and waited until she sat down to hand her the detective's card. I asked her if she knew why a homicide detective had come to our house asking about her. She looked at the card, and then at me. "Come, Cole." She said she didn't know anything about it. I pressed. I asked again. She stuck to the same line. No idea who that man was. She excused herself and walked upstairs without another word. I sat in my office trying to piece it all together. Phone records. A dead man. My wife's name. I paced around, questions spinning in my head. I couldn't take it anymore. I marched up to the bedroom and asked again. She gave me the same blank denial. I snapped and yelled, "Then check your Facebook messages. Someone doesn't call you that often for no reason." And then, as if on cue, another knock on the door. I froze. I walked back down the hall, heart pounding in my chest. I opened it slowly. It was him. Detective Randall. Again. Chapter 3. The proof comes knocking. Detective Randall didn't waste time. He greeted her and she replied politely, nervously. We invited him in and he sat down in the same spot on the couch as before, only this time the air felt 10 times heavier. Then he said it. Bluntly. Coldly. "We spoke to the victim's wife," he said. "She told us she found out your wife and her husband were having an affair. When she confronted him, she shot him." I felt the air drain from my chest. I turned to my wife. She shook her head. "I didn't have an affair with anyone," she insisted. But the detective didn't flinch. "Ma'am, we have proof." I looked at her. I didn't want it to be true, but I could already see it in her eyes. Her lower lip trembled. Her shoulders curled inward like a child about to confess. He continued, explaining that the victim's wife had hired a private investigator. She suspected something for months. The PI had followed her husband, taken photos, tracked calls. Her number, my wife's number, showed up repeatedly. And worse? There was video. A video of her and the victim together. Her face crumbled. Tears welled in her eyes as she lowered her head and started crying. The same mouth that used to whisper, "I love you," to me was now buried in guilt. The detective explained that they had to confirm her alibi, but she was not a suspect. Just a key piece in the case. He apologized again and left. I sat there not knowing what to do, what to feel. I turned to her. My voice shook. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Since our 6th year of marriage." I couldn't even respond. I could barely breathe. Every work trip, every phone call, every kiss goodbye. It all flashed back, distorted now, poisoned. "How many people?" I asked. She couldn't look me in the eye. "A lot," she said. I needed a number. I needed something solid to hold on to, some border to the nightmare. But she wouldn't give it to me. Not yet. Chapter 4, a number I couldn't bear. I couldn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to count how many lies one person could tell over 3 decades. She said it started in our 6th year of marriage. That meant 25 years of betrayal. 25 years of me trusting her. 25 years of walking through life next to someone who was stepping out of our marriage in city after city. I kept pressing her. "How many?" I asked again. She looked at me, eyes hollow, mascara smudged. "Please don't make me say it," she whispered. That made it worse. Eventually I found out anyway. The detective called a few days later. He said another man, another one of her lovers, had come forward. Said he had secretly recorded their encounter. That video had surfaced. But that wasn't even the worst part. The detective said her name was linked to over 44 different men. 44. I felt physically sick. I told her it was over. She cried. Beck. Swore she loved me. Told me the job made her lonely, that she never meant for any of this to happen. But I couldn't hear it. I couldn't even look at her anymore. I packed a bag and left the house for a few days. I just needed space. Silence. When I came back to collect more of my things, she was there. Sitting on the couch like she'd been waiting. She looked up at me with this pathetic kind of hope and said, "There's something else I need to tell you." I stood still. Silent. She said, "I got pregnant by one of them. A few years ago." I blinked. Then she added, "I had an abortion. I never told you." I was ashamed. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at her, feeling like I was floating somewhere above my own body. How do you respond when the person you built your whole life with tells you that your entire marriage was a lie? Chapter 5, the final flight. The silence between us became unbearable. I no longer saw a wife. I saw a stranger I had shared my life with for 31 years. She kept begging, kept crying, but it was all noise to me. Words meant nothing now. I told her calmly that we needed to talk about the assets. There was no saving this. There was no going back. She dropped to her knees and grabbed my hands. Said she couldn't live without me. That I was her only real love. That it was the job, the loneliness, the airports, the drinking, it all blurred together. I pulled away. "You lied to me every time you boarded a plane," I said. "Every goodbye, every 'I'll call you when I land,' all of it was a lie." She said she was sorry. Said she didn't mean to hurt me. Said she never meant for it to go this far. But it did. And now here we were, surrounded by a life we built, now crumbling from the inside out. I left again. I needed to think. I needed a lawyer. When I returned days later, she met me at the door, still crying. Still trying. She confessed it all. All the men. The casual hookups. The emotional ones. The ones who meant nothing and the ones who meant too much. She wanted to purge it all like some final act of penance. She even said she started going to therapy on her own. Not to fix things with me, but to fix herself. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. "Please. I need help." But I was past needing explanations. I was at the stage where I couldn't look at her without wondering what city, what night, what man. I told her, "I'm going to a doctor. Because of you. Because of what you did." She broke. Her face collapsed into tears. But I didn't comfort her this time. I didn't touch her. "You were unfaithful for nearly our entire marriage," I said. "And you think I'll ever touch you again?" She didn't answer. Just sobbed as I turned and walked away. Chapter 6, After the Fall. I moved out for good and filed the divorce papers that same week. No more pleading. No more late-night confessions. No more looking back. When the court date came, she didn't even show. The divorce was granted by default. Just like that, 31 years reduced to signatures on a page. Afterward, I returned to my parents' home to regroup, to breathe again. I told them everything. The pain. The betrayal. The shame I hadn't shared. They were upset, hurt that I hadn't turned to them sooner. But I wasn't ready before. I was barely holding it together. A few days later, there was a knock at my parents' door. My mother answered it, and I heard her voice harden. It was her. My ex-wife. She stood there, her eyes sunken, makeup smeared. She asked to talk. I didn't have the strength. Not anymore. She gave a long speech, half confession, half manipulation. But I just stood there, arms crossed, saying nothing. Eventually, I cut her off. There's nothing left to say, I told her. We're done. We finalized the sale of the house. We each got $120,000. She didn't even fight it. I assumed she'd move on and vanish from my life forever. And for a while, she did. But a few months later, one of our old mutual friends called me. She filed for bankruptcy, he said. Lost everything. Turns out, she had given most of her money to a man she started seeing after our divorce. He lost it all in a failed business scheme. Then the hits kept coming. That same guy, her new partner, was indicted in a federal Ponzi investigation. She was questioned. Not charged, but questioned. And soon after that, she was fired from her airline job, caught sleeping with a married pilot. His wife had gone straight to the CEO with evidence. Now she's jobless. Broke. Alone. And me? I'm healing. It's not easy erasing 31 years. The echoes still follow me. But I don't miss the lies. I don't miss the loneliness disguised as love. I've learned that sometimes the person you spend a lifetime with was never really with you at all.